Storytime, my boyfriend cheated on me, so I cheated on him with his cousin. So a little background information, I was 18 and a freshman in college. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 3 years going on 4. And we were pretty much what you call a very toxic relationship. We would break up with each other, then get back together 5 minutes later. I would say that it's all really my boyfriend's fault, because instead of spending time with me, he would rather go out to the club and sleep with any whore that he could find. But he would always start an argument with me before he went to the club so that way he had a reason to cheat on me. And he's been doing this ever since we first started dating. I don't know why I didn't take that as a red flag, but I'm a dumb bitch who lacks common sense and is completely blind to red flags. So I started a private Snapchat, but I used it as almost like an OnlyFans. Except it was free. I added a bunch of guys on there and my boyfriend's cousins. His one cousin was my best friend and would low-key hype me up. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend cheated on me, so I cheated on him with his cousin. So like I said, I made this private Snapchat that was basically like an OnlyFans. And I had his cousin on there who was low-key my best friend. And he would low-key always hype me up on my thirst traps. So eventually I sent him a whole nude picture of myself. His cousin had a girlfriend, but neither of us were going to tell our significant others. And I told his cousin that I would sleep with him if he cheats on me again. Well, what do you know? A few nights later, he calls me starting an argument before he goes to the club. So I go to bed, I'm bawling my eyes out, and he calls me at 3 in the morning asking for me to get an Uber for him and some friends. But I hear a girl talking in the back. So obviously I gave him a hard time about it. So he hangs up on me, calls me 20 minutes later, and I hear this girl talking in Spanish in the background. Me being me, I assume the worst. I assume that he cheated on me. So he calls me the next day saying that we need to talk. I go over there. He says he doesn't want to be with me anymore. Life for part 3. Part 3 about how my boyfriend cheated on me, so I cheated on him with his cousin. So like I said, he calls me over to his house. He says that I'm the problem in the relationship. I'm the reason why he cheats on me 24/7. So I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I leave and I go to his cousin's house and his cousin kinda does the deed on me. After that, I leave because I really wasn't trying to do the nasty. So a few weeks later, my boyfriend texts me saying, I need to talk to you, da-da-da. And we're not together at this point, mind you. And he's like, hey, like, I just feel like you're really not being honest with me. Like, I want to get back together, but I feel like you're unfaithful. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? You literally cheat on me 24/7. So I give him my phone to go through it. I thought I deleted everything, but I didn't delete a conversation between my best friend and I. So I'm bawling my eyes out, turn on my game face for lying. And I'm like, I swear to God, like, I didn't cheat on you. It was a prank. But he did the nasty with that girl, so I think we're even. So obviously I got back with him and we've been together for 4 years. Storytime about how I slept with my teacher and got pregnant. A little background information, I was 18 and in 12th grade. I had always had trouble in school, especially history class. And I had always had tutors and everything like that. And eventually I just got tired of trying to get my grade up because I realized that it was never going to happen. So my teacher was 27 years old. We're going to call him Mike. And Mike had a girlfriend. He had been staying after school helping me like every single day. From like 3 o'clock till 5 o'clock. Well, the one day I had this outfit on that maybe wasn't that appropriate. And I was being super flirty with him the whole time. To be honest, I just didn't want to put in the effort to get up my grades. And then 10 minutes later, he started getting handsy. And I told him that if he wanted to do anything, he had to get my grade up for me. So he did just that. Well, for the next couple of months, I would go over to his house to study, like for part 2. Part 2 about how I slept with my teacher and got pregnant. So like I said, I got tired of putting effort in to get my grade up. So I let him hit and then I was going over his house after school. Well, later on at the end of the year, I find out that I'm pregnant. And because I was 18, I really didn't have to care about what my parents thought. So I told him, and surprisingly, this man was on board with it. He was like, oh my God, like, let's do this. I'm so happy. And I was like, what the fuck? Well, his ex-girlfriend found out, so she went and told the school. He got fired. And 3 years later, we're still together raising our child. Time about how I stole my best friend's boyfriend. So a little background information, I was 14 and in 8th grade. And we're going to call my best friend Ashley. Ashley was really nice at first. She always had my back when I needed her. But then out of nowhere, she started being super rude to me. She turned into one of those pick-me girls that would always make fun of you in front of other guys, talk crap about you to the guy that you liked. Well, the one day I hear her talking shit about me whenever we were in class. And everybody could hear her. She was literally on the whole other side of the class. And I asked her, hey, like, why were you talking about me? She was like, no, I was talking about a different girl. And I had a pretty unique name, so I was like, who else in the school could you have been talking about? But I just brushed it off. Well, then we were in algebra class and I heard her talking shit about me again. How I do my makeup so bad and I can never get a boyfriend, like I'm so ugly and all that stuff. Well, she thought that I wasn't mad at her, so she came up to me the one day and was like, OMG, I have a boyfriend. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I stole my best friend's boyfriend. So like I said, she would talk shit about me all the time, and I only confronted her that one time, so she thought that we were all good. So the one day before class starts, she runs up to me, she's like, oh my god, you'll never guess what? I have a boyfriend. She's like, he's so cute, he's really popular, he's on the football team. And I was like, girl, whatever, nobody cares. Until I'm sitting in my first class of the day, and I remember that she made out with my boyfriend last year. I forgave her, of course. But because karma was taking a little bit too long, I figured I had to do something about it myself. So my plan was to hook up with her boyfriend. Do I feel bad about it? Absolutely not. So I went to my school's football game, and guess who I saw? My best friend's boyfriend. She couldn't make it that night, she had something to do, so I had him all to myself. So I went up to him, I started flirting with him, and I was like, oh, you should break up with your girlfriend and date me instead. But then he was like, I thought you guys were best friends and I would never date you. Like for part 3 about how I stole my best friend's boyfriend. So like I said, I went to the football game. She wasn't there because she had something else to do. I went up to him. I started flirting. I told him that he should break up with her and date me instead. And I also said that she was a bitch and a whole bunch of other stuff. And he was like, why would you say that about your best friend? And he was like, I would never date you. And I had a feeling this would happen. So I had photoshopped a picture of her and this guy that she sits next to in her lab class. And I showed it to him and I was like, see, she's cheating on you. So he was pissed off. He gave me his number. And the next day he came over to my house. We cuddled, watched movies, we kissed. After 3 months, Ashley found out. We hadn't talked to each other since then. But now I am 16 in 10th grade. And still with her ex-boyfriend. Funny thing though, the picture that I photoshopped with her and that guy, she's literally dating him now. So you're welcome, I guess. But anyway, she still goes around talking shit on me. I mean, who can blame her? I did steal. Part 3 about how my best friend waxed off my eyebrow in my sleep, so I cut her hair. So like I said, nobody went to sleep for the rest of the night. I acted like it was okay because I was plotting in my head that I was going to cut one of their fucking ponytails off. So I go over to their house next week. And every single day that week, they were telling me how good my drawn-on eyebrow looked. It didn't actually look good. And none of my hairs were growing back. So around 12 o'clock, all of us are ready to go to bed. I'm laying down, pretending that I'm sleeping. And they think I'm sleeping, so they're over there talking shit about me on her bed. Ashley's bed. I wasn't sure which one's eyebrow I should rip off because the one ripped off my eyebrow, but then the other one put the wax on my eyebrow. They were like, she's sleeping. I don't think she's gonna do anything. She doesn't even have the balls to do anything. So around 4 in the morning, everybody is dead asleep. I get up, and Ashley had her hair in a ponytail. So that was easy enough. I grabbed a pair of scissors out of my book bag, and I cut her hair off. Story time about the girl who used me to get with my guy best friend. So a little background information, I was 15 and in 9th grade. Well, at the end of summer, right before school started, this girl named Liv added me on Snapchat. And I had seen her all around school. She was very popular and a little bit stuck up. But I added her back and then I got a call on Snapchat from her. I answer very awkwardly and I'm like, hi. And then she was like, oh, I've seen you in a lot of this guy's pictures. Are you guys like best friends? And I'm like, yeah, sort of. And she goes, have you ever thought about dating him? It was just an extremely weird out of nowhere conversation. Anyway, so fast forward 2 weeks, I walk in the first day of school with my best friend Tommy, and Tommy and I have like every single class together. For some reason, Liv thought that we were friends and she would come and go as she pleased. Like Tommy and I would be standing at my locker, she would come over. Anyways, fast forward to chemistry. She walks in the class, winks at Tommy, like for part 2. Part 2 about the girl who used me to get with my guy best friend. So like I said, we were in chemistry, she walks in and she winks at Tommy. And I look over real quick and I realize that her nails were vermilion. That's Tommy's favorite color. And by the way, like I said before, I did not know this girl at all. We had never hung out. She never talked to me before this. Not to mention, anytime that her and I talked, she would only talk about Tommy. Fast forward a couple days, we're in chemistry, and somehow she got her assigned seat next to me. And she was like, hey, do you want to study for the chemistry test together? And I was kind of excited because I thought that I had a new best friend. So I said, yeah. Later on, she comes to my house. I never told her an address or anything like that, so I was very creeped out about how she knew my address. We studied for the test, and she goes, hey, do you want to hang out with Tommy and a few other guys tomorrow? Well, tomorrow was the day that I was going out of town. So she goes, okay, maybe next week. After being out of town, I came back on a Saturday, and the next day I get a text from Tommy, like for part 3. Part 3 about the girl who used me to get with my guy best friend. So like I said, she asked me if I wanted to hang out with Tommy and a few other guys. I told her that I was going out of town. When I got back from out of town, the next day I get a text from Tommy. He was flipping out on me. He said that I was talking shit about him to Liv. And apparently I said that I was happy that his mother died. And a bunch of other bullshit. Well, after that, Tommy cut me off, so I was lonely. And I started hanging out with Liv more. Even though she said that terrible stuff to Tommy and made him cut me off. So fast forward a year, he is a new best friend, right? I get a DM from her on Instagram saying like, hey, did Tommy used to be your best friend? Pretty much everybody knew what happened between me and Tommy. But she was like, that girl that you're best friends with is dating him now. And then he completely cut me off. So technically, she used both her and I to get with Tommy. But after dating for literally like 2 months, he cheated on her because she slept with 5 other guys.
Story time! Okay, so everyone knows now, but in December of last year, I noticed that I missed my period twice. I ended up asking my boyfriend if he can go buy me a pregnancy test. We ended up going to Walmart and we bought one which came with 2 tests. I ended up taking one in the Walmart bathroom and it came out positive. Well, I was in disbelief, so I threw it away. I told my boyfriend that I still had one more test. And on our way home, we stopped at the gas station and I ended up drinking some water so I could go to the restroom again. I took a test again and it comes out positive again. So at this point, I'm freaking out even more. I went up to my boyfriend and I'm like, it's positive. I then started crying because I knew my mom was going to kill me. After that, we ended up buying another pregnancy test because I still didn't believe that I was pregnant. I still believed that the test was wrong. Fast forward a few months and I managed to forget all about it. I brushed it off thinking that my period would come at some point, but then I started getting symptoms. And I ended up blaming my symptoms on COVID because my boyfriend and my mom got COVID at the same time, so I just said that it was that. But then I began to notice that my stomach got bigger, and so did my mom. She ended up buying me a pregnancy test on Easter and told me to take it. When she handed me the pregnancy test, me and my boyfriend were freaking out. I told my boyfriend to pee on the pregnancy test, but I didn't want him to pee on the floor. So I had no choice but to go to the bathroom freaking out. Not knowing what to do, I dipped it into the toilet. I then used the restroom, and when I got out, I laughed in her face because the pregnancy test came out negative. The test came out negative, but my mom still didn't believe me, but she just left it at that. So then this one day I was at work talking to my manager and I slipped up by saying that I might be pregnant. She then took me into the office and she started talking to me, asking me if she wanted to let me go on break so I could go buy one. And I was like, no, it's okay, it's a maybe. That's when she told my coworker to go buy a pregnancy test, and she did. I took the test and it came out positive again. So now I'm over there freaking out so much that I sent a picture to my boyfriend and I told him like, hey, it's positive again, you need to come over after work so we could go tell my mom. He then came to my job and we both stayed there till it closed. He then followed me home and I walk in, and mind you, it's 1 a.m. on a weekend. I go to my mom's room, I knock on the door and I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. And she was like, okay, come in. And I was like, no, my boyfriend is here, you gotta come to the kitchen. I go sit in the kitchen and she comes over and I just say, I'm pregnant. She started yelling nonstop and I told her to bring her boyfriend down so he could calm her down and not throw anything at us. She yells at him to come down and he does. She's still yelling and I was just sitting there not knowing what to say. Her and her boyfriend were arguing back and forth, and the next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. My boyfriend goes home and the next day my mom argues with me even more, and then she asked if my boyfriend told his parents yet. I told her no because they didn't need to know since he already moved out of their house. That's when my mom ended up messaging his mom, but she never got the message. So then this one day my boyfriend took his sister and his mom to the store, and at the time my boyfriend was buying things for our baby. He had bought the baby a car seat, but he forgot to take it out before he went to go pick up his mom and his sister. So like I said, one day my boyfriend picked up his sister and his mom to take him to the store. And at the time, my boyfriend was buying things for our baby. And the day before, he had just bought a car seat and forgot to take it out of his car. When he picked them up, I was on the phone with him on speaker and she saw it. That's when I overheard her ask my boyfriend, why do you have a car seat? And he was like, oh, well, Dee is pregnant and she's on the phone with me right now. That's when she turned her attention to me and she asked me, hey, is this true? And I was like, yeah, we were just scared of telling you, fearing that you'd be disappointed as well. After telling them, overall, his parents were very happy. But my mom was still pissed, and to this day, she still kind of is. I was pregnant with my baby at 16 and I had her at 17. And she is now 4 months old and both of our parents love her so much. Story time! Okay, so when I was 15 years old, I was dating a really abusive guy. He would put his hands on me constantly and keep me away from my family. Eventually, I finally got away from him and I moved to a different city about 2 hours away from where he lived. Fast forward about 6 weeks later and I found out that I was pregnant. Obviously, I didn't know what to do, so I ended up telling my mom. That's when my mom came up with a plan. So basically, the plan was that she was going to tell everybody that she was the one that was pregnant and then hide me away for 9 months until the baby was born. Now, this plan was really easy to do because we lived so far away from any of our family members. So then when I was 14 weeks pregnant, I found out that I was having a baby boy. And when my mom found out, she decided to name my baby after her boyfriend at the time. But there was only one problem. Her boyfriend at the time had the exact same name as my ex-boyfriend. So when she told me the name idea, I told her no because everyone was obviously going to find out because of the name. but my mom insisted that no one would question it. Fast forward a while later, and I ended up giving birth a month after my 16th birthday to a beautiful baby boy. And as time went on, my mom would tell everyone that he was her son. As time went on, my mom told everyone that he was her son. He met my older sister and brother, and they never questioned it. At least I thought they didn't. When my son was 3 years old, my older siblings were visiting one day, and they noticed how attached he was to me. So everyone sat me down and questioned me about it. I denied it, and so did my mom. 2 years later, when my son was 5, I received a message on Facebook from my ex-boyfriend's mother asking if that was his son. I denied it, and she proceeded to send me baby pictures of my ex saying that he looks just like him, and that it was a shame that I was hiding him from the world. After that, I ended up blocking her. A little while later, my ex-boyfriend ended up going to prison for murder. So of course he's not getting out for a while. But before he went away, he asked me if he was his son. And of course, I denied it and blocked him as well. So now more time has gone by, and my son is turning 7 years old this year. And he thinks that I'm his big sister, and so does the rest of my family. I hope that one day I'll be able to tell him the truth or not. But I'm terrified as to what he might think of me and what my family will say. So my question is, what do you guys think I should do? Storytime! Okay, so this goes back all the way to the beginning of my junior year of high school. So me and my cousin went to school together, and we were always late. School started around 7:55, and we would always get there around 8:05. So eventually the office lady told our moms that they needed to start dropping us off early. And by early, she meant like at 7 a.m. Starting September 1st, we had to show up to school at 7 a.m. Fast forward a while later, and it's the day before September 1st. Me and my cousin were talking about how bad we wanted Burger King. So I told my cousin, hey, like, I'm gonna bring some money tomorrow. And I think 55 minutes is enough time for like us to walk to Burger King and then walk back to school. Mind you, we live in a really small town. So then fast forward to the next day, and my tia drops us off at school. We got out the car and she started driving away. She turned onto a different road and we couldn't see her car anymore, so we started walking to Burger King. And it was all going great until we had to cross the busiest street in our small town. To make it even worse, that road is where all the trailers drive on. So we're standing at the crosswalk and we're getting ready to cross. After looking both ways, we started crossing the street. As we were walking, I looked to my left and I seen a car. As me and my cousin were crossing the street, I looked to my left and I see a car coming right at us. My heart dropped and I thought I was going to die. That's when it hit us. And all I saw was my cousin flying into the air. And then I went rolling onto the hood. After that, I fell on the road, and when I opened my eyes, everything was gray and blurry. And there was like this buzzing sound in my ears. I turned to my right and I seen my cousin laying down on the floor, and I thought she was dead. Somehow I managed to stand up and I began walking towards her. That's when I saw the guy who hit us come out of his car, and he was bawling his eyes out, and then some random guy also came out of nowhere and he called 911. After that, the ambulance, fire, and police department arrived, and we had to do the worst thing of all. Call our parents. At the time, my dad was already at work, my mom was getting ready, and then my cousin's parents were also getting ready for work. When I called my mom, I told her I got hit by a car and she was pissed. But guess what she did? She took a shower before even coming to check up on me. But anyways, both my mom and my tia were pissed at both of us. After that, the school security guard came to check up on us, and by that time, me and my cousin had no choice but to go back to school. So we did, and by that time, everyone already knew what happened. Story time! Okay, so my dad has had this on and off toxic girlfriend for the past 3 years. So she moved back into our home a month before school ended, and a lot of stress was put onto me. I had to drive her kids to their school, pick them up after school, cook for everyone, clean the house, make sure all the chores are done, and I would even bring everyone to their sports and extracurricular activities. I was doing all these parent responsibilities all while being a senior in high school and worrying about my own stuff. But the thing is, I never liked to disappoint my dad, so I just wouldn't complain about it. Fast forward a while later, and finally my graduation comes around, and I only wanted one thing. That one thing was to take a picture with my biological mom and dad. Even though they're divorced, that's just the one thing I wanted. But of course, before my graduation even came around, I talked to both my mom and my dad to make sure that it was okay for us to take a picture together that day. After I asked them, they both agreed because, you know, well, they raised me my whole life, so. Now we fast forward to my graduation day. So after my graduation, my dad and his girlfriend invited my mom to eat dinner together with us. So while we were waiting for our table, we all took pictures. That's when I asked my dad and my mom to take the picture with me, and that's when it all went downhill. My dad's girlfriend got extremely jealous over this picture. It was so bad to the point where I couldn't even eat dinner anymore. And because she was throwing this big fit over it, we all had to go back home. And when we got home, she was telling me about how disrespectful it was to take a picture with my parents and that I should have just taken separate photos. That's when I told her, hey, like, it's my night and you ruined it just because you couldn't be mature about the situation. Fast forward to the next day, and it's my graduation party on my dad's side. And my dad's girlfriend came up to me trying to apologize, and that's when she told me that she was raised differently, but she still said that what I did was disrespectful. But I just tried to put everything aside because I didn't want to have a bad day again, you know? So then I was planning on playing a song for my dad to show appreciation for him, but before I could do that, his girlfriend decided to make a speech about herself and how it sucks to be a stepmom and not my real mom. She also told my dad that the song I played, she picked. I was so tired of her making everything about herself that I packed my things the next day and moved in with my mom, and I can finally live like a normal 17-year-old.